Good day, Canada. Good afternoon, Asia. It's Thursday, 12 p.m. in Toronto, so it means it's time for a regular webinar on immigration to Canada. My name is Alex Davidson, and today we're going to talk about employment. Usually, our Thursday webinars are dedicated to immigration programs, initiatives, and streams. Instead, the next 20 to 30 minutes are about ways of legally finding employment in Canada. We will, of course, touch the base of LMIA, how to approach an employer, what Canadian employers want to see in applicants, and how to make your resume more appealing. So let's begin. Just a couple words about us. We are in immigration for over a decade. Our specialists and team members are certified by Canadian authorities and work to make immigration available for everyone. We have three offices in Toronto and in the city of Markham and Ontario and New York City in the United States. So enough about us, straight to the topic. Today our topic is employment in Canada. What it is, what does it mean for you, how to get into the Canadian labor market, what to know about securing an employment and how to detect fraud. To put it simple, successful employment is an agreement between an employer and an employee where the employer finds a good specialist to do the job and the employee actually sells his or her skills and experience to an employer. Hence, the very first rule of becoming a successful candidate is to be prepared. You must know what employers in Canada expect from candidates and present yourself from the most beneficial perspective to as many potential employers as possible. We'll get into more details within minutes. Also, there are certain conditions for both parties in securing the employment agreement. Both the employer and the candidate must meet a number of requirements for the employment to become legit and long-lasting. Besides, since employment in Canada is in high demand, not only in the country but also worldwide, it creates conditions for numerous unscrupulous recruiters, unlicensed immigration firms, and other intermediaries interested in money much more than in providing quality services. Therefore, I will today talk a little bit about ways of avoiding fraud, on how to detect fraud, understand it, and staying away from fraud associated with employment in Canada. So obviously, in Canada, employers expect candidates to be proficient in English or French. So to succeed, you must speak English and understand spoken and written English without any difficulty. And in many cases, writing skills are also required. So the very first thing you can do to increase your value in the eyes of employers is to master your English. However, since Canada is the world's most multicultural country, people here are pretty much okay with almost every accent you might have. There are only a small percentage of newcomers Canadians who speak perfect English. Others usually have more or less pronounced accents. So it's totally okay if you want to, given that it does not affect your ability to understand and to express yourself. Let's proceed to the next bullet in the list. Any employer's dream is to hire a candidate who will just do the job right. Despite the fact the labor market in Canada is well saturated and it's usually hard to find one. Professionalism is another key factor for success. It does not necessarily mean rocket science, degree in philosophy, or an MBA diploma. No. If you know how to do your job well and you're actually doing it for your current employer, you can consider yourself being a professional. Also, it's very important to remember that in Canada, you are not expected to be an all-in-one specialist, able to fill positions in different fields. Instead, it would look much more professional-like in the eyes of an employer if you have just one primary occupation and a good deal of active experience in it. For example, a resume of a carpenter slash drywaller slash bookkeeper slash cook slash financial analyst will not be taken seriously, while a resume of professional carpenter will receive and be carefully examined. Your goal as a job seeker is to present this fact in full light by building a good resume that emphasizes whatever skills you wish to demonstrate in order to be invited. We'll talk about building a Western standard resume in our next webinar, so subscribe and stay tuned. For now, I want to stay here just for 1 second more. The very common example which we see from coming from Asia is a resume of really all-in-one professional, of the person who could do pretty much everything, just let me into Canada. Guys, it is absolutely wrong, and if you would like to succeed in your job search, the very first thing which you have to be understand that your focus on one primary occupation would be considered much more seriously and would be taken into much more detailed consideration versus the person who has all the skills in the world and would not achieve it. Now, the last point, the third one, uh, what's called a proactive approach or proactive position. In a nutshell, you must be active in all efforts that may lead to an employment. No waiting, just acting. If you think that uploading a resume to Workopolis or Monster.ca is sufficient, you're absolutely and terribly wrong. You'll have to research employment website first, first thing in the morning on a daily basis, for example. Send out resumes, fine-tune to feed advertised position, follow up with potential employers, subscribe for newsletters, polish your resume from time to update it online and keep it fresh in the web search portals and so on and so on. It is extremely important to understand that. Now, people often complain that they have no luck after sending as many as 40 or 50 resumes. Okay, well, trust me, that's nothing. Just 1 second, sorry. As we already said, the labor market is saturated and very active in Canada. Vacant positions, they come and go. Online job ads and resume are being posted, expired, renewed, and what you have to do is to keep up with this fact and with this fast-paced environment to be noticed. Just take it as given that you must spend at least a couple of hours per day to look for a job. As we say in Canada, job search is a full-time job itself, and it's just so. If you ask my personal opinion, I would say that the successful candidate looking for a job in Canada would send at least 50 resumes per every single day, would look for positions for at least for 1-2 hours every single day, and then he or she would have a good chance for success. Now, employment in Canada is in high demand for a reason, right? Since the job in this case is not only the source of family income, but also a condition for a fast-track immigration to Canada for entire family, and you know that. Therefore, you need to know some important things when looking for employment in Canada with a view to immigration. Let's speak a little bit about conditions you have to meet as a foreign specialist to become legally employed in Canada. You probably know it, but still, foreign nationals are not allowed to work in Canada whenever they want. Instead, a special authorization called a work permit must be received well in advance. Immigration legislation provides for various ways of receiving a work permit. In this particular topic, and this topic is so vast that we cannot cover even a fraction of it. If you need more information and guidance on how to receive a work permit, please leave a feedback and we'll consider including it into one of our next webinars. So just for now, take it as granted. Primary condition of employment in Canada is receiving a work permit. NOC stands for the National Occupation. It's a database containing descriptions of all possible jobs, structured and categorized. You'll often hear about NOC when it comes to formalities of obtaining a work permit. Employer must also go through a certain formalities process to hire you. When looking for an employment in Canada, consider the SMART search method. Try looking for positions with the keyword LMIA, which stands for the Labor Market Impact Assessment. This is actually the authorization for an employer, the authorization which employer receives from the government that allows him or her to hire a worker from abroad. In our case, means you. Over the next few slides, we'll be talking about approaching an employer for LMIA. So, advice number one, we understand that LMIA is important for you, but your skills are important for employer. Always begin your dialogue with something that will benefit your potential employer, and then come to other points of importance, including LMIA. As a rule of thumb, first offer and then ask. As soon as you understand that the employer is satisfied with your candidacy, it's time to discuss other aspects of employment, including authorization the employer will need to hire you. It's not, of course, the most pleasant topic for every employer, but given that many of them still suffer from lack of workforce, the negotiations have good chances for success. Let me give you a clear example. During the last couple of weeks, we were talking about immigration to Saskatchewan, to Manitoba, to Atlantic provinces, those provinces of Canada, which are populated, where employers are actively looking for people to hire, sometimes even desperately looking for people to hire. But still, I honestly believe that none of them would be considering candidates, or almost none of them, right, would be considering candidates from abroad who start their resume or their CV with, put it simple, sir, I need LMIA, or would you please sponsor me? It is first about the employer and how you could satisfy his or her needs in the workforce. And then, of course, if an employer is satisfied with you, goes the question how you would be able to bring me in Canada and how you would be able to sponsor me. Now, the next thing is the hidden job market. It's actually statistically estimated that up to 80% of all labor market in Canada is virtually hidden. You do not see that on online job ads. Those positions are never publicly advertised, but at the same time, they are real. There are many reasons for that, but it's outside of the scope of our webinar. Instead, we'd like to understand how to get into this hidden labor market. And the cornerstone is social networking. Kind of using Facebook-like connections, not for posting pictures, but to looking for a job. It's of course not about just Facebook. When we talk about social networking, we do not mean online networks only. In real world, it works similarly and often very effective. Just ask each and every one about possible employment. And believe me, it works. Everyone you contact with must know that you're looking for a job in Canada. This may include users in Canada, newcomers sharing their experience on web forums, and quite often, those newcomers, those who came here a few months ago, they know a lot about job search just because that's what they have been doing quite recently. People often underestimate hidden labor market, concentrating efforts on classic ways of job hunting, which is not a very good idea given that many job positions go unadvertised. Again, a very personal example. If I am looking for an assistant, I would probably ask first friends and colleagues, and only then would consider going online and advertising this position. It's not really because I don't want to do that. It's not really because the outside market is somehow not pleasant or not attractive. attractive for us, but it's just a personal attitude, I believe, which is common in Canada. So in order to look for a job, in order to catch more than 20% of labor market ads, I would probably go to the hidden job market and would ask and would talk to as many people as possible. You never know who knows somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody in Canada. And this actually works. And I'm speaking here from this perspective of experience, from the perspective of our clients who successfully found those jobs. So now we came to something very, very specific. Here are the links which I carefully selected for you of several proven effective sources of employment information for Canada. There are, of course, numerous job search websites, but remember the difference. Some of them actually post job ads like Workopolis or Monster.ca. Others are so-called aggregators. They are continuously pulling out job postings from other websites. In our list, that's the third from the bottom, Indeed.ca. They maintain the database of thousands of job postings from another site. Kijiji and Craigslist are classifieds, means they are not dedicated exclusively to the job search, but nevertheless they have plenty of job postings among other ads. Moreover, job postings on Kijiji and Craigslist are mostly up to date and often posted by employers themselves, not some kind of third-party recruiters. If you ask again my personal opinion, I would prefer to go to Kijiji first and Craigslist the second. Just because Kijiji works probably faster, just because, and it's kind of more popular in Canada, I would go to this first. I have actually heard a couple of months ago that Kijiji is not accessible from Asia, that there are people who experience difficulties going to this website from India, from Bangladesh. If that's actually the case, give me a quick note and I'll show you how to do that. Now, how to write a resume. Here are free resume builders. Resume is actually your business card when it comes to securing an employment. The employer cannot see you. Instead, he or she looks at your resume, and that's how you make your first and probably the last impression. In terms of the last, I mean, of course, positive, right? So you catch his or her attention. If you want to construct the right resume, consider using online tools. Many of them are available today, and I gave you a few examples of such services on the slide. And of course, I put LinkedIn first. Don't forget about LinkedIn. This online job-oriented social network proved its efficiency in job search. It's extremely efficient for Canada too. Most employers expect that a good candidate have an up-to-date LinkedIn profile. It actually serves as your online resume with the references always available to anyone interested. If you ask me, if I receive a resume of a prospective candidate and I like it, I'm expecting to see his or her LinkedIn profile right in there. In the worst scenario, I would Google for it and would try to check what's online and what are people talking about the app and who he or she is connected to. If he or she is interested in this particular topic, which groups he is in, and what is the industry he or she is specifically interested. That's the rule of thumb. Use LinkedIn as much as possible. Now, JobBank. That's the special website for the job search, and if you're not on JobBank yet, you should be there immediately after this webinar, seriously. As you probably know, any website ending with .gc.ca is the official website of the Government of Canada. JobBank itself is the portal where Canadian employers find employees both in Canada and from abroad. And one very important thing about Job Bank, if you don't know it yet, is that it is integrated with the Express Entry system from beginning of 2015. It means that if you have a profile in Express Entry showing your interest in immigration to Canada and a profile in Job Bank, chances are that you'll find both employment and way to immigrate to Canada well advanced. Job Bank has been actively promoted and advertised in Canada, and more features are rolled out every month that allow employers and employees to find each other faster. Just 3 days ago, for example, a new feature has been implemented. Now every Express Entry candidate automatically receives notifications as soon as new matching positions are advertised on Job Bank. Do not miss this chance. Apply for Express Entry and for the Job Bank today. Again, it's only one source. And if you want to be really successful in the job search in Canada, I understand it's not a magical trick, but you have to utilize and use all the tools which were mentioned today. Job Bank, Monster.ca, Kijiji.ca, Workopolis. If you actively use all of them, I would seriously be surprised if you do not catch attention of at least a dozen of employers in probably 1 month. Now, just touch the base a little bit on immigration. Indeed, of course, employment in Canada makes immigration possible. However, it's not the only way of immigration. Just in case you did not watch our previous Thursday webinars, there are over 60, I would probably say it's close to 100 of immigration programs, streams, initiatives, and ideas in Canada. Well enough to choose from. We already spoke about provincial programs of Manitoba, of Saskatchewan, immigration for self-employed individuals, which, by the way, this particular program does not require IELTS at all, and so on and so on. If your primary goal of job search in Canada is immigration, which I'm almost sure it is, consider other options as well. There are programs that do not require to arrange employment in Canada. Feel free to ask, and we'll do our best to help you out. Now, last but not least, the employment fraud. In many cases, intermediaries, often calling themselves recruiters, employment agencies, immigration agencies or representatives, you name it, offer employment in exchange. It may actually sound like a nice deal. You pay for quote-to-quote guaranteed employment in Canada, get a job offer, immigrate, and return the quote-to-quote investment in the forms of salary. However, in most it ends up in a different way. No money, no immigration, and of course, no employment. Just remember one thing. Under the Canadian legislation, it is absolutely illegal to charge a fee, even $1, for arranging an employment. It is absolutely okay if you pay for immigration services, for example, document processing for work permit, but it's still no-go to pay for employment itself. You have to separate these two things and understand carefully where the difference goes. Money won't buy you an employment. Guys and gals, it's a serious crime to sell jobs in Canada. Remember that trustworthy representatives would never ever offer you employment for money, would never propose such a nonsense to you. Please do not believe in such false promises. Every week on these webinars, I repeat one simple, really many legal ways for immigration. Look at the previous slide, right? It's just only a few programs which are available, which give you a chance to immigrate. And those programs are active, they are real, and they work. All of them are much cheaper and much more reliable than buying an employment. Do not, if you do not know how to immigrate, ask us. But do not waste your money or compromise your chances for successful immigration. Stay away from this fraud. Now, if you would like to assess your chances, find out about immigration programs and initiatives, how you and your family could come to Canada, please feel free to contact. We always respond back and, of course, listen carefully to every individual's case. If you're from Bangladesh, you may contact our friends and partners, Visa Center, absolutely directly. They're skilled, they're experienced, and they are trustworthy professionals who work with us. If you're from another country, please contact us directly and we will help. We also have a YouTube channel where you may find recordings of previous webinars in case you missed them. You may find lots of programs, ideas, guidelines there absolutely free of charge. If you haven't listened to our previous webinars on immigration, if you want to find out how to immigrate legally and what are the simplified process and steps, use the link, go to the YouTube channel, spend 20 minutes, invest this time into your own education, how to immigrate to Canada and how to do that right and how to stay away from fraud. And my only request after every webinar, please help us to convey the message and spread the word and to assist people in Asia to get access to free and trustworthy information on immigration, on visas and applications for Canada. We really put a lot of efforts to make these webinars interesting, useful, and free for you. So please share, please tell your friends, your family about what we are doing. Give us your like on a Facebook and +1 on Google+. Thank you all for being with me today. And next time we'll talk about resume writing. I'll share with you information how to create a resume that catches attention of Canadian employers, how to present yourself on a paper properly, and what are the rules and basic guidelines of Canadian resume, and what are Canadian employers would be looking in a candidate, potentially you. So stay tuned with us, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and for now, thank you all. Goodbye.